Hey, hey, hey! Back again. Hey, yes, it's another Toolbox Tech Talk. Well, I think I overdid the smoke machine tonight. It's really going off in here. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in for another Toolbox Tech Talk live stream. And I'm actually streaming to multiple platforms today using some different software because I've got a special guest. I'll introduce him in a minute. But yeah, first up, a bit's been happening in my world, indeed. We've been installing a big battery system here at the Smart Energy Lab, and a little bit of a steep learning curve for me. We've got 2 megawatt hours of Pylon-Tech power cubes to install here, and we just did the first 4 of 18 racks of them. Boy, oh boy, they're heavy. It's unfortunately it wasn't me lifting them, but getting them all configured and also interacting with the inverter. So rather exciting. I'll be doing a video, well, I'm filming it right now, on the Solus 50 kilowatt hybrid, and that's connected to these Pylon-Tech power cubes. So yeah, we've got some kind of big stuff coming for videos for you to watch. And yeah, a bit of a tech review of the product itself. But anyway, let's dive into it. My guest today is, and where's my little button, is Mark Cavanagh from MC Electrical. G'day, Mark.
Hey, Glenn. How are you going? Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure. Mark's a fellow YouTuber. We watch each other's channels. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So for those of my audience who don't know about you, Mark, and MC Electrical, tell us a little bit about how you got into the solar industry.
How I got into solar. So it was back in 2009, or 28, I think. I was kind of looking into it, and at that time, as a Sparky, I was kind of installing air conditioning and being part of the problem. I saw it, and then one of my mates got into solar pretty early in 2008, and I'm like, oh, that's a solution, not a problem, So I jumped in 2008 and did my design and install course. It was pretty early days back then. Didn't learn much from the course, I don't think. So, and then back in 29, found a job with an installer. Had no intention of running my own business, but he really had no idea what he was doing, and he was subcontracting to other companies. So, in short, I ended up the company that we were subcontracting to asked me to take that over, and then it sort of just took off really quickly, from 2009. With that curve of the solar industry, So yeah.
Right. So you remember the 1 kilowatt systems?
Yeah, that's right. Yep. And we could. Yeah, it was back in those days when we would smash out 2 jobs a day. I think some people still do that, but but yeah.
Yeah, those early days were a bit crazy. So tell me a bit about MC Electrical, the YouTube channel. What motivated you to start a channel?
YouTube. Yeah. Okay. So. Well, it started off with the blog, really. So in maybe 2015, 2016, I started doing blogs. And, that's just a good way of doing SEO. But what I found is that there was just a lack of, there was data sheets and information from manufacturers, which is obviously biased. But there was a lack of real information about testing. And I found doing a blog, it would force me to do the testing properly because I'm putting my name to it, So I did that for 5 years, and then it was 2020 over COVID when I was sitting on my veranda doing work, and I thought, oh, well, why don't I get a little green screen behind me and record some things? At first, it was just kind of helping out our customers with how to use, the monitoring platforms and things like that. But then I started doing more tech reviews on it and things, so yeah.
Well, tell me a bit more about your testing setup.
My testing, okay, so I've got 2 places. So I've got this office here, and then just 100 meters away, I've got my warehouse in the same complex. And so this ladder behind me isn't just a prop. You were asking that before. That's that's my stairway to heaven. So up on my office roof, I've got different arrays of panels there, and that is mainly for inverter testing. So I don't know, they're probably like 300 or 350 watt panels up there at the moment. but they're just supposed to be like for like testing, northeast and west, and then another northeast and west system. So I can put that on. I'm testing at the moment. Three string inverter or 3 tracker inverter versus a 2 tracker inverter. That way I've got a exact setup. So then I've got my inverters down underneath the stairs behind the showroom here, and just run all sorts of kind of tests. Then over at my main warehouse, that's where I do my panel tests, where it might be REC versus ACO or Canadian versus ACO or whatever it might be.
Cool. One of the questions I get a lot from installers is, do you need 2 MPPTs if you've got the same number of panels in each string? What do you think?
Yeah, no. And I'm still surprised that this is... Oh, sorry. Say 2 MPPTs if you've got...
No, the 2 MPPTs versus 1 MPPT with 2 strings connected to it.
Yeah, okay. So there's 2 conceived problems there. One is one that's not really a problem. So if you're going east and west and north, people think that you have to have 3 MPPTs there, or basically for many years people haven't been doing it and think, you've got 2 MPPTs, so you go 2 orientations, and then 3 MPPT inverters came around and people got excited. All you have to do, like let's say you're going east and west, as long as those string lengths are the same, you can parallel them. You'll lose around about 1% or something like that, depending which inverter you're using. So, that's been a myth in the industry for a long time, which is weird because Fronius debunked it way back, to 2012 or something. I think they did a white paper.
Yes, that's usually what I send out when people ask that question. I just send the Fronius white paper.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, I did a blog about that years ago as well, and I think we have to use that every now and then to explain it. Then the other problem with paralleling is clipping. So if you've got, let's say, a 22 amp tracker and you're putting 13 amp panels on it and you're paralleling that, then you're getting up to 26 amps, which can be a problem if you're current clipping, but you might be power clipping at that stage anyway. So we've spent a long time with different panels just working out at what stage are you power clipping and at what stage are you current clipping, because quite often it doesn't really matter, but sometimes what we are trying to avoid, because we got caught out in the early days, is let's say we had 26 amps on a 22 amp tracker, and we've got, let's say it's a 10 kilowatt system, and that system is flatlining at 9.8 kilowatts. In reality, the customer isn't losing much power at that stage, but they're not happy that the 10 kilowatt inverter is only getting to 9.8 kilowatts. So that's really what we're trying to avoid with current clipping. So
yeah, I mean, there was a kind of another misconception was that IMP, maximum current, was a sort of like things would go bad if you exceeded that. But in fact, it's like you say, clipping's the right word for it. Is that the inverter is? I call inverters smart loads. They determine what they want, and if they are rated for a certain amount of current, they'll limit it to that level. So it's not really a problem. And really, it's all about getting as much self-use as possible generally. So export rates aren't very good. So getting a big flat curve, not a problem. PV being very cheap, overpowering is always a good idea. Yeah, I remember someone from SI Clean Energy, just for fun, because they had a test rig there, put 25 kilowatts on a 2.5 kilowatt inverter.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So they put like 10 strings parallel onto to a 2.5 kilowatt inverter just to see what would happen. Would the smoke come out? But they wouldn't exceed any voltage limits. That's the key point. So basically, it's just a on-off device. It came on at 2.5 kilowatts in the morning, ran all day, very, very hot, and then turned off at the end of the day. I'm not recommending that, by the way, because you basically voided the warranty. But yeah, they don't blow up.
I had a less fortunate story where I got a Fronius Sunrise inverter, from 2000 or something like that. We'd taken it off a wall and it was still working. I had it running down my showroom, on one string of low voltage, low current panels. And then I'm like, I really want to test this MPPT against Fronius's MPPT now. So I set up, I can't remember the configuration. And it was running one day, came in the next day, it was running, and it got to about 9:30. I wasn't in the office yet, and it exploded. So it didn't explode, but it went bang, and we lost power to the building. And,
Wow.
Yeah, that was a nasty one, but yeah.
And what was the cause?
My over voltage or over current. So, but 20-year-old or 20-year-old inverter that had dried out, and I don't know, caps blew or something. So
Yeah.
So I didn't pull it apart and investigate too much, but yeah.
I mean, over voltage is generally the cause of the bang.
Yeah.
Those caps don't have much tolerance. So when they say 600 volts max, the caps might be rated to just a few volts above that. So it's really a hard limit. And the dielectric breaks down, and then it's all over. Boom.
Yeah. I found that out the hard way. Yeah.
It can be quite spectacular. Yeah, cool. So, with your testing of panels, inverters, what's your favourite? Do you like to say what they are?
My favourite panels and inverters, yeah. Inverter is simple. It's Fronius, and it's always been that way. Like it was that way just because everyone gets on their fan club, and kind of sticks to the. I like the story, and that's what most people do with an inverter. And I like the way it looks, and I like some of the features of it and the monitoring platform. But then I started testing it against other inverters for temperature, which is a big thing. Fronius having their external fans. But also the global maximum power point tracker, or the way that it handles shade. Most of them don't have it. So, Fronius do and SMA do. SMA are sort of not really in the game that much residentially. And every other inverter that I found, it was either the monitoring platform wasn't good, always it didn't tolerate the shade so well. They'd normally run hotter. And you just sort of throw all sorts of crazy things at Fronius. This is one big thing that I found is when I was doing 3 strings. It was a Goodwee inverter that I had 3 strings running into 3 different inputs, and Fronius 2 inputs and paralleling, like we said. And when I unevenly shaded it, I was wondering how much better would the Goodwee inverter handle it, because I'm unevenly shading it. Fronius performed better. I don't even know how that works. So it didn't. I actually wanted to publish that, but I couldn't explain what I was seeing. So it still just technically works better all the time.
Right.
So yeah.
I actually thought I might just do a little explainer, because you just talked about global, and not all my audiences will be across all those details. So let me just see if I can get this happening right. Bring up a little drawing. Okay, so this is a little IV curve. I'll try and draw it. So as you well know, this is the load line of a PV module. So this will be its open circuit voltage. This will be its short circuit current. And somewhere in between is the sweet spot where the magic happens, which is the maximum power. So if I draw power over here, this is power, you'll have a curve that looks like that. And that's your maximum power point there. So it's really the job of a tracker, an MPPT. And by the way, do you realise it's an Australian invention?
Yes. I saw you had who was it? The guy on a year or two
Watkinson. Ago. Peter Watkinson's dad from AERL. He founded AERL in 1983, I think it was, with his first MPPT. And I actually own one of those. I bought one in 1991. So it's pretty hand soldered it all together, made it in this, back shed. But they worked. It was a revolution for me, from going from, simple, like plasmatronic kind of controllers to something that actually tracked the voltage. So that's a nice looking IV curve, but we all know that when you get shade, it's not a nice little IV curve. It'll have bumps and lumps as the bypass diodes cut in and out. So, you get a bit of shade and you get a little bit of a bump and you get another one like this. And so the tracker has to try and find the very most efficient point on that green curve when there's a bit of shading. And that's what you're talking about, is the global IV curve tracker. It actually doesn't just stop at the first bump. It doesn't go along here like this and go, oh, there's a nice little bump there, we'll stop there. It might actually be here, might be the best spot. So unless it sweeps the curve occasionally to find the sweetest power output, I just put it out of focus, sorry. Camera's not very good like sometimes. Come on, you can do it, camera. Put a pencil in there. There we go. Wow, talk about hunting. I might have to come back to me. It's really crapping out on me. But so if I can get it back while you're not looking. So yeah, the that global tracker is quite a nice feature to have. So there it is again. Is that how you understand it?
Yeah, exactly. And so just doing that full sweep, global rather than local. So rather than doing a little sweep and disturbing the voltage and current slightly, you're going 0 to 0, right? Which there's a downside to that. It really is
an issue for shading, so that's where it comes to its fore.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, Fronius, your favourite brand of inverter. What about panels?
Yeah, so I don't really have a favourite brand of panels. So REC, I think, is probably the best panel on the market, but the price is up there. So we would sell a couple of pallets of that a month. 3 or 4 jobs a month or something like that. If people just want the Lamborghini, then they can have it. We are using Canadian, and we have done for a while. We find them really good to deal with warranty. I find generally their panels are good and straight and no issues. We have had issues in the past. And warranty issues are good, and it's my gamble that they'll be here longer than others, but I might lose that gamble. So I really have found, it used to be that I'd try to get non-Chinese panels. We did Q cells for a long time. That didn't work very well for me. We were doing sun power, long story, but I didn't really like the way they headed, especially after doing a couple of factory tours. And then I think in that time, China just got really good at making a commodity item, a solar panel, and any of the big ones I would be going for. Longi, Canadian, Trina, Jinko. In my mind, are probably, from what I understand, all the same. So.
Yeah. I think we've kind of reached peak panel. They're all the ones that we see in Australia are all very good quality panels. There isn't a market really in Australia for just cheap and cheerful. Maybe on Gumtree or something, but yeah. Yeah.
Oh, there is a point on that too. Is that one of my big bandwagons is how panels work in the shade. With Fronius inverter, but also the warranty of panels, which is 25 years, which is stupid. But also that you could never put your panel in the shade. I don't know if that even means nighttime or 6 o'clock in the morning, or what are they talking about? And so Canadian, I've got after a long time. I got Q cells finally after many years of fighting with them to give me a reasonable warranty statement. And that was a waiver for us. I've tried to get them all to change their installation manual to stop saying stupid things like never, ever, ever shade your panel. No one does that, but Canadian have given me a waiver. So I've said to Longi, for example, if you change your install manual, I want you to go one step further, because fix it for the industry, then I'll switch to your panel. And they didn't. They didn't want to do that. So my favourite panel is the one that's got the most honest warranty. So yeah.
I mean, it's the component of the system that's going to last the longest if it's good, and you want that warranty to cover that.
Yeah, so, for sure.
I mean, I've got panels here made in 1984. By Tideland, and they still work. Fill factor is pretty bad, but they're down to about 0.5. But they still work. So the warranty is kind of a curious one. I think maybe my pitch on that is that when you have partial shading of a cell, you'll get the bypass diode starting to conduct, which is what they're for, is so that you don't lose the whole string. But that diode is not generally continuously rated. So if it's always bypassing, it may thermally fail. And so I guess they're covering their bottoms by saying don't put it in the shade. But I think what they really mean is, permanent shade across one part of the panel, like next to a dormer window or something where it's always being shaded.
And you would think that, I would think that, except that after 5 years of fighting with panel manufacturers, they won't put that in writing, generally speaking. To me, I really think, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist normally, but I really think it's kind of, they've got a get out of jail free clause there, your panel fails after 12 years, they're like, was it in the shade? So.
Well, speaking of warranties, what's your experience with warranty claims?
With warranty claims with panels, well, unfortunately, Q-Cells has been pretty terrible since they left, and whoever we deal with that, I don't deal with it myself. It's one of those things that with Canadian, I'm still spending a lot of money with them every month, so yeah, that's been fine. SunPower was one reason that I stopped using them, because they were calling an IV fault. We had a photo of a mega across proving an insulation resistance fault, and they were saying it was cosmetic, it's not always good, so.
Wow, an insulation fault is cosmetic. That's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah. Yeah, I lost it at them then, and long story, they got really upset with me because I lost it at them. I'm like, that's because I was a little bit undiplomatic in an email. I'm like, far out, I think you're missing the point, So,
I must admit, Mark, you're pretty brave about your public statements. It gets you into a bit of hot water from time to time.
Yes. I cop it sometimes, so and I deserve it. So. Yeah.
Hey, cool. All right. So, Fronius' favourite inverter. What would make you change?
So, a big thing with Fronius too, I think, is their longevity in the industry. So, So here's, as batteries we're doing a lot more batteries, which we'll talk about later, I guess. I'm looking around for a cheaper system, or a system that I think is still going to be reliable and cheap. And the way I think about it is, how long have they been manufacturers for, and are they about to leave? And so there's a lot of new products, which kind of straight away is negative points for me, when you get a new manufacturer that have been around for 5 years or something like that. So, it would be something. I'm testing iStore at the moment, or Huawei, because I always liked them as an inverter, and iStore have taken them on now, just relabeled them. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles. They're not being really progressive about product development, but I think it's a really solid product. I've tested the heck out of it, and I really like it. SunGrow, I'm thinking of looking into SunGrow again. Our problem with SunGrow was we had a relatively high failure rate when we stopped using them nearly 5 years ago. I think things have changed, and they tick all the boxes of being a long, stable company, having a good presence here. And from what I hear, the warranty department have, everyone has their ups and downs, including Fronius. We don't get the downs for Fronius because I've got a direct phone line. So, nice. So we always get really good support. But with apparently SunGrow, their tech support team are really good at the moment. So, it'd be worth looking into them again. So,
I guess that's an interesting sort of balance, which is longevity versus innovation. There'll be sort of new players, and you go, gee, this is a pretty cool product, but they're a relatively young new player. But sometimes the old players just don't innovate, and they start to fall behind. So it's pretty interesting. Like, as you know, I've had quite a bit to do with SIG Energy, and pretty impressed with their product. But like you say, in your review, they're only a bit over a year old as a company. But I have actually been to Shanghai to their office. I think you've been there as well. They're all ex-Huawei, so really they're a mature company's employees who've started their own brand. So when do you kind of think innovation is trumps longevity? I mean, would you have stuck with Kodak if they were bringing out a digital camera?
Yes, yeah.
I mean, sometimes the longevity doesn't always favour them, but certainly from a warranty point of view, that's always a good sign.
Yeah. So two things. Well, probably on the same topic, I'd say about that, and I've thought about this too. Like, they took all of it. Huawei's employees went over. Imagine, the three people that run my business, not me. Ryan and Shane and Joe all got together and started up a new solar company. They've not got the infrastructure that we've got. They've not got the 15 years of building up systems and processes and stuff. So I'm sure they can take that a lot of that with them. But they also don't have all the vehicles and all the financial backing that we effectively have built up over the years. And so it makes it a little bit more risky. And when you look at SIG Energy, I'm still like, I don't know, sometime this year, hopefully they'll be listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. Until that happens, I think it's even more nervous, about how they're going to go. So, Yeah. Anyway, but I do agree with the rest of the market that it's a ridiculously interesting looking product and innovative. So hopefully I'm wrong. Put it that way.
Have you seen the copycats? I mean, even Fronius have brought out an almost identical product into solar.
Really? Someone did mention that, and I thought they were making it up. Okay.
If you squinted, you would think it's a Sigen store. The only difference is it's got the words Fronius on the front and a slightly longer display. All the same form factor, all the same capacity-looking battery packs, and so is Goodwe. Goodwe showed at Smart Energy Expo an actual, copycat kind of product. So I think what we're seeing is that, and I've said this many times, an iPhone moment for the industry. Some company like Sig Energy have come up with a brilliant design, and of course, people will copy that brilliant design.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. I did hear someone say that, and they weren't sure. So I'm like, no, you must be wrong. So I've got to look into that because that would be cool if a long established company brought it on. Obviously, they won't. I don't think they're going to turn it over in 12 months' time like Sig Energy did, from launch of company to fully fledged product. But
it's also the move to the all-in-one for residential. Having to deal with two different companies, a battery manufacturer and an inverter manufacturer, and the comms between them, and even to the warranty issues, like who's to blame when it doesn't work. When you put it all under one brand, it makes for a much easier experience.
Yeah, and that's the elephant in the room for Fronius and BYD. And I guess where I settled with that is thinking I'd rather have the best inverter and the best battery manufacturer rather than, put together, rather than having all in one package that I wasn't comfortable with the company, So, yeah.
Cool. Hey, this is getting on to sort of the industry and things that go wrong. What are some of the common mistakes you see in installs?
Common install mistakes. Okay, I would just say attention to detail with things, that we try to push everything to the nth degree. And so one thing, I guess, running between your rails before you put your panels down when you've got your wiring down there, a lot of people don't even put any kind of support. We put a stainless steel containery wire between there. And, that's just not going to last long. Simple things like, people are apparently still using PVC cable ties everywhere, which last about, 12 months or 2 years or something like that. And things like gal saddles and stuff like that, just the finishing touches to a product, which I'll talk about labels in a second, but labels is a big one. All those little finishing touches, and the way that I see it is not just about the fact that we're using a gal saddle and a gal screw when we're outside, all the time, absolutely no ifs or buts. It's just that my installers and my apprentices are learning there's no compromise in what we're doing, not with our materials and not with our workmanship. So I think that that's probably what I see like when we go out to other jobs, which is quite often, or ripping jobs off, it's just that, they just try to get down the pub by lunchtime, and knock off straight away. was the way the system looked at the end, So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you are often putting something in a very public area on someone's home. You want it to look good, not like sort of, a spaghetti junction of cables and conduits.
yeah, and rusty saddles. And shade is a big one too. People, I think, don't understand how to install systems in the shade. And I still get my apprentices calling up quite often, and we do it at Toolbox, go through it at Toolbox Talks all the time, but I love it because I have tested the heck out of shade with inverters and asking, should we be paralleling it in this situation, or should we just go a longer string, or what are we going to do when the shade is like this? So really focusing on trying to get the most out of your system, not just for the fact that I've tested it and I understand it, but passing that stuff on to your guys so that they, can get a better result at the end of the day. So.
Hey, I got a funny experience with that. I had one of my installers get to the job before me, and I said, this is early days when we always put our panels north. And I said, just put them on the north side. It's a nice flat roof. You've got no problems there. And I get there and they're facing east. And I go, why did you face east? He said, oh, that's where the sun was. And I said, that was the morning.
We had something similar in the early days before we all had smartphones. I guess maybe they didn't have smartphones at that time, and weren't using Google Maps to find north or whatever it was, and so I bought all compasses. But the compass was getting thrown out by the roof.
Oh, so, the roof, yeah, all that metal, yeah.
Yeah, so I threw all those compasses out. So, yeah.
So let's talk labels. It's one of both of ours hot topics. You started making your own labels, I believe?
Yeah, so just beside me here, I won't turn the camera, but I've just got a label maker that we just laser print them. It's sort of a... what was it, a $37,000 machine, which seemed like a big investment. The bigger investment was the months that it took me and someone else to design our own labels and make them compliant. So at first it was partly a cost thing because I realised we were spending about $17,000 a year on labels and chucking a lot of them out, but also because we had to design our own labels for them to make on top of what they were giving us because it was wrong, When I started really going through the standards, and particularly with battery labels, I realised we were so far from compliant in what we thought we were doing, but also the fact of the label graffiti. And maybe, I'll give you some examples of labels that we were buying, danger, toxic fumes, and these kind of labels. There's one massive, this is a Tesla label, and it's a Tesla label kit. And that came from this, it wasn't the label manufacturer that made it up, but that was this is Tesla's label guide. And that label guide, if you're following that, you're non-compliant. It is total garbage. I've talked to Tesla about that. They were sort of saying, well, it wasn't supposed to be a comprehensive guide of what you need to be installing. It was, an example of some labels that you may or may not want to use. And then the label manufacturer takes it for gospel, just reproduces that. And to be honest, I took their word for it. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Apart from those really big sticker labels, which weren't compliant, I kind of thought, oh, well, yeah, they must be fairly compliant. And my guys were just working with it and not being compliant at all. And not only were they not compliant, it was really ugly, as in having massive stickers and skull and crossbones all over you, and 20 font or whatever it might be on your labels. And really confusing too, which I think is the biggest thing, is that I think the standards are not great at the warnings that we have to put on there. So plastering big, confusing sentences that no one really understands the purpose of it is just a mess, and having, it's just not safe because the customer doesn't really know the labels that are important. So, yeah.
How many labels are there on an EV?
On an EV, yeah.
Risk of explosion, toxic fume hazard,
yeah,
live
exactly.
parts. You should plaster them all across the boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. And look, I am on the standards committee. I am the rep for Smart Energy Council, and I tried my best to try and minimise the obsession with labelling. But once it started, it's really hard to stop it. I think we've got this culture in Australia, which is, the nanny culture, is you just kind of tell everyone all this stuff that they should know anyway. In Germany, you only get one sign on a PV install. It's a picture of a house with a solar panel. The German approach is you should know what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, especially if you're an electrical worker, do you really need to be told don't touch live parts?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, it's crazy. So one other thing, if I can go on. So 5139, when I started reading that, it was sort of saying, if you read the clauses in the introductory to it, it says your label should be 5 mil. So for a start, why are we putting 25 mil font or whatever it is, or 40 mil font sometimes? And it talks about it should, not shall be, red, white, and yellow. And then you go back to the appendix, which, as you know, Glenn, is informative. It's not like this, you need to put the skull and crossbones there. So you don't. So I think label manufacturers then have gone, not the Sparkies, label manufacturers have gone and just reproduced the skull and crossbones and the informative label guide. Some of them are quite contradictory of what we're supposed to be doing, don't actually add up. But also that they are just not designed. So here is an example of that big label that I just showed you. That's for a Tesla Powerwall. That's got everything you need to know and no one cares about. And that fits on the side. And everything not that you need to know that you need to do to be compliant. Yeah. And that sits on the side of the Tesla Powerwall, so no one sees it and no one cares, except for the inspector. So
I think that there are some dimensions in some of the labels, like the risk of battery explosion, that gives a dimension for it. So I think that some labels are expanding their text to make it sort of fit in that dimensioning.
I think that part is in the informative section, though. The dimension.
Good point. Yes, it is. Yes, that's true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my pet hate is the electrolyte burn sign being stuck on lithium-ion batteries, which is really for liquid electrolytes, such as flooded lead-acid batteries.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just not required. In fact, I often say if you do put it on there, you should be putting bunding to capture all that electrolyte when it spills, because bunding's a requirement for spillage. Yeah, so don't put every sign in the kit if you're buying kits on your installation. And also, they don't have to go on the equipment. They just have to be at the location that it needs to be read. It kind of ruins the look of some of these lovely products of bright yellow, red, and white and black stickers all over them.
Yeah, here's another example. So this is for the Fronius inverter that cuts out around underneath the Fronius. Shutdown procedure, I think, is important. There's my focus. This shutdown procedure is worded to rotate the switch, not just turn off the DC isolator, whatever the heck that is, So it just makes it, up to the right or whatever it might be. It gives really clear instructions that fits. And then all that other garbage that you see on the front of inverters, that's all you need to do. And we put that on the side of the inverter. So it doesn't even have to be on the wall. That is designed to fit on the side, So
the warning signs are for authorised workers too. So it's an electrical hazard sign. It's not for the owner who's going to put their fingers on things, because they need a tool to access it anyway. But yeah, I like your shutdown procedure with the little cutaway for the blue and green light on the front of the Fronius inverter. That's a nice feature.
Yeah, inverter manufacturers, a lot of them put a lot of work into making their product look good, and then we go and destroy it with no thought at all, So, yeah.
Yep. And then there's it's not really a sign, but the other documentation that isn't there, which is the documentation that is mandatory in all of our standards, 5139, 5033, 4509, 4777. How often do you not find any documentation on site?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a tricky one because we always leave it there, but then the inspector doesn't find it when they go out, So,
yeah. I noticed you had a QR code on one of your signs. Does that take you to something?
Yeah. I heard you saying the other day that, was it Victoria, don't allow a QR code for MSDS or SDS?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought that was interesting. That's one thing that I want to go down with. I'm not sure what to do with that, whether I just go, well, I think it's compliant, so it is, because up here we kind of have our own rules, So
yeah, the rationale was that it could be faded or damaged. There may not be phone reception on site. Those are sort of, essential safety information for first responders needs to be readily accessible. Hence a printed copy. But you can still have the QR code. I think a QR code's a great idea for providing access to documentation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think so too. We have two different QR codes. That's a battery shutdown procedure, to show you to videos of how to shut it down if you want, and other information, So.
Wow, I like that one. So, what, you made the video?
Just a quick video of how to shut down your Fronius inverter and your battery or whatever it is. So, yeah.
Nice. I remember Selectronic used to have a QR code on the front of their SP Pros, and it had worded something like, stop, point your phone at this. it was inside the cover. So when you were doing the comms wiring, and it took you directly to a hands-on video of someone actually connecting all the comms cables to an SP Pro. And I thought that's a really clever idea, rather than have to get out a manual and find pretty pictures. It's actually showing a hand putting a wire with a screwdriver.
Yeah. And after COVID, everyone's used to QR codes, I think. So yeah, I think they're underrated. So
Yeah. Anything else about labels you want to tell us?
Nothing. It's jumping out, I guess. No. Here's one thing, Glenn. I remember asking you this a while ago about, and I ended up getting the answer, and I don't think I mentioned it to you. But when you're doing a battery installation, your off-grid circuits, or your what do you call it? Backup circuits. Mm-hmm. Whether you need to put change the breakers to Type A RCDs.
Well, you do since April 2023.
Yeah, with 4777, yeah. So, I found that
3000 with 3000 amendment. So, basically, Type AC breakers, which Australia's used for ages, don't have any DC tolerance, and Type A do. So, for instance, in New Zealand, you've never been able to use Type AC.
Right, and I mean when it's a alteration, when we're installing a battery system, mm-hmm. When we install a solar system, we don't upgrade everything to Type A, right? Unless we're doing a switchboard upgrade, yeah. So if we're putting, a power and a light circuit on backup circuits, the ESO had an argument that they were trying to run. Their idea was that maybe you could go through 5 different standards, and follow the link and suggest that you do have to upgrade it because it's a different source of power, and 4777 actually spells it out, I found really clearly, basically saying that it is an alteration. Because it's an alteration, then you have to go back to 3000 that says, well, every alteration needs to have Type A breakers, which throws, the reason I was chasing it is because it really throws the cost out of a job if you're doing full backup and you've got to replace every circuit breaker in the house. But we started doing it anyway because I just think it's a way safer to upgrade every safety switch on a system that is going to run during a blackout is probably a good idea, so.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, it's definitely an alteration. Cool. All right. Let's talk a bit about batteries.
Sure.
Well, they really are very topical at the moment because of the Cheaper Home Batteries program being announced by the Labor government just before the election, and now they've been re-elected. It's all systems go. Where do you think home batteries are headed?
It's going crazy. So we weren't installing a whole lot of batteries. We sort of had a 5 to 10% adoption of batteries because we didn't push it, and we were just really clear. If you want it, that's fine, but it's not about return on investment. It's going to be maybe a 15-year payback period or a 10-year payback period or whatever it might be. And we didn't sell a lot since the election came through. Our sales have up. Like we might sell 10 or 15 jobs a week on average. We've been selling, and maybe 1 or 2 of those are batteries with it. Now we've sold 30, then 35 jobs in the first 2 weeks. And, 28 of the 30 were batteries. So,
Wow.
Yeah. So it is just, and we are I've got all in my scripts and everything like that batteries aren't about return on investment. We're really open with people about that. We don't want people to come back to us and go, I've still got a power bill. This is going to take me years to pay off, But everyone loves a rebate, I guess. So,
Yeah, it's really changed the economics because I agree with you. Mostly batteries wouldn't even meet their payback within the warranty period. They don't generate energy, they only store it. So unless you can save money by not buying electricity from the grid, it's not really worth it. But gee, the very generous, it's about to start on the 1st of July, I should mention, but you can sell and install before then as long as you don't turn it on. That's what we've been told. I got my team at Solar Plus to do a little bit of modelling for me on a CNI system, so something around 250 kilowatt hours a day consumption with a 50 kilowatt hour battery, which is the maximum size that you can get the the cheaper home batteries subsidy for, and 100 kilowatts, or 99.9 or whatever, of solar on the roof. Payback was 2 years and 11 months using current pricing.
That's insane. And so that's a blended payback, right? So you're using the solar and the battery as a payback,
That's right.
not just okay.
Absolutely.
But still,
it's a whole new system. Yep.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, which is fair enough. But yeah, that's insane, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, for many businesses who lease a property, it's probably worth their while within their lease period. And they can take the battery with them if it's relocatable kind. You leave the solar behind, take the battery.
What do you think's driving that? Is that the tariff prices? Is that time of use? Or like, why is that? Are their tariffs just higher in your modelling?
I'd have to check what Anne used. I think it was in Victoria, so she used some pricing for Victorian business. Will depend very much on what your tariff arrangements are, but certainly way less than 10 years. That's the big change. Yeah. Yeah, and sure. Of course, with the new 4777 Part 1, that we can now bring EVs into the equation for energy storage and dispatch. That's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, SIG Energy have got ahead on that one with the F-150 Lightning, right? And I think another EV now also is compatible with that, but that's going to be a game changer.
They've listed about 6 that they've tested, so including Tesla Model 3, Model Y, Kia, Neo. There's quite a few. I mean,
really?
Yeah.
Right.
It's actually pretty simple in terms of you've got a DC output from the car, but the car has to communicate. So it's all about the comms between the car and the bidirectional inverter.
Mm-hmm. Glenn, we've been talking about this for a while. Which way do you think it's going to go? Do you think that it's going to be like, Fronius pairs with BYD but not with the SunGrow battery? Or do you think that most EV chargers, bidirectional EV chargers, are going to be compatible with most cars?
Don't actually have a view on that yet. I think I'll have to wait and see. It certainly is a influence on purchase. I was talking to a friend who was thinking of buying an EV, and he basically would only choose one that could be used as an energy storage and dispatch. Yeah. So he was basically hammering Kia to promise that it would be compatible with a future bidirectional inverter, and that was his purchase decision.
Hang on, you said the Model 3 can do it with SIG Energy now. Did I hear you right?
So Tesla haven't agreed, but they've tested it. Yeah. So they had at Intersolar. I wasn't there, but I saw some content from Intersolar at the SIG Energy booth. They had a screen showing all the vehicles that they've tested the 25 kilowatt bidirectional charger with.
Right. Okay, so you're saying if I had SIG at home with my Tesla, I could still do it? That they've made it to work, but my warranty would be an issue?
In fact, there's even talk that Tesla might just turn your car off because you've made it unsafe now because you're outside of the warranty.
Yeah, okay, right.
So don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. It's tempting.
It is very tempting. I mean, buying an EV is the cheapest battery you can buy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and you get a car thrown in.
Yeah. But the problem is, I think a lot of people straight away go to the idea of, hang on, but I'm not. My car is not. It's at work during the day, when the sun's shining. So I'm not going to charge it up off solar. What do you think about that? Is it still going to work?
It will suit people who have a second car that does stay at home, but also employers might start to offer, some deals with their employees to bring their car to work and use it as a battery. So I know one of the utilities here in Melbourne, they've put in an awful lot of EV chargers just for their employees to encourage them to buy EVs. So their car park is a solar car park with half a megawatt of solar and I think about 40 or 50 EV charging points. And slowly people are starting to purchase EVs because they know they can charge at work for free.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. No, fair enough. The way that I see it, hopefully, is that you're discharging your car at 6 o'clock at night, but then charging it up at midnight, when power's free or really cheap, so just arbitraging it. So it doesn't matter that you don't have solar or, the solar's not charging your car. So,
Or for backup too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the ultimate backup. You've got something like a 50, 60 kilowatt hour battery sitting there next to your house when the power goes out. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, you have done some testing on EV chargers. Can I be a real nerd and say they're not chargers at all? They're actually supply equipment.
Yes, I know. I've had that comment a few times from nerds like you, and I'm like, I don't care.
Marketing always wins, I say. So just give up, Glenn.
Yeah. It wasn't going to be a great thumbnail, ESV,
EVSEs. Yeah, it's a real mouthful.
EVSE, I can't even hear.
Yeah. So, I saw your hot box testing where you put them in a little cabinet and heated them up.
Yeah. No, so that was interesting seeing how they derated. And I guess the conclusion that maybe I didn't make clear, or the point of what I was trying to see there, is not that your charger is necessarily going to sit in a 35-degree room or 40-degree room that often. And if it is, who cares if it's throttled a bit? It's more about the quality of these chargers. How are they building it? It's the same idea as Fronius runs cooler. I think that makes it a better engineered product, a better designed product, and it's probably likely to last longer because you're not running it at its capacity all the time. It's overrated to withstand temperature, I guess. So, I think we're at the real early days of EV chargers. In a few years' time, we'll have a much better product, generally. So,
I hadn't realised they thermally derate till you did that test. So that was news to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually Chris Cathcart, one of just a nerd from Brisbane that told me about that, and I'm like, oh, gee, I need to test that. So it was surprising to me too.
Cool. Hey, what about virtual power plants, VPPs? Have you had anything to do with VPPs?
Yeah, not really myself, but I think it's going to obviously be the future, like we're saying with discharging your EV or your battery at night. And when we're saying a battery's worth it, is a payback period of a battery going to be 10 years or 15 years or 2 years, like you're saying? Well, that's completely dependent on the VPP that you're going to use in that next 10 years or 2 years, I would have thought. You can make it a lot quicker if you're all of a sudden getting 10 kilowatt hours for discharging your battery. $10 a kilowatt hour when you're discharging your battery at 6 o'clock at night or something like that. So, and then charging your battery back up for free. So it's going to make batteries a lot more economical. I don't know, and maybe more about this, but Amber, not technically a VPP, but along the same lines. I think it makes economic sense to use those guys, but I don't know if we're completely there yet. I think that there's going to be better plans that are going to be more desirable for customers to use, and then the grid can take advantage of all this battery storage, I guess. So
I might do a bit of explainer for the audience there. So Amber Electric is a electricity retailer who offers you pricing that follows the wholesale pricing. So wholesale electricity is very volatile. It dips down, typically in the middle of the day when there's lots of rooftop solar, and then it rises, but then occasionally spikes, like, have an event, a storm, and then you lose some interconnector from South Australia or something, and suddenly the price goes to, 100 times more than it was a few minutes ago. So Amber allows people to effectively play in that market and take advantage of that cheap electricity and avoid those high prices. But some sort of automation really is making it much more doable. You don't want to sit at home thinking, should I turn this on or not? I better check my app. Yeah. You want it to be automated. So there's third parties who do automation of that through, whether it's through the inverter or a separate product.
Yeah, again, probably early days, do you think, Glenn? And that's going to, watch this space sort of thing?
Yeah, well, I've got mixed feelings about VPP. It does seem to be a little bit of a gold rush at the moment. You hear these things of $10 a kilowatt hour, and I earned $500 last night just charging my battery or something. But I think this is once you get more players in the market, those things will be less revenue incentives because there'll be more people doing it. So it's early adopters will get the biggest advantages. But I think VPP is more about grid 2.0, so helping create a stable grid, because it means that the aggregators, the companies that aggregate lots of individual small systems to act as one big generator or storage device can provide that as a service to the grid and help stabilize the grid without having to actually build an enormous battery or enormous solar array.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, flattening out that duck curve that isn't much of a duck curve these days, but yeah.
I've heard lots of descriptions, including the Dromedy curve. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, just on a personal basis, how do you keep up with the standards? So they keep changing. There's another one published just last year. How do you manage?
Yeah. Again, I think this is a good point of YouTube or blogging. I remember when 5033 came out, and that was a massive update. And I knew my Sparkies weren't going to all sit around and read it. So I just sat there and read through it and wrote a guide. And originally it was just for them. Then I'm like, well, if I put this as a blog, it's going to be, I'm going to have to make sure I'm completely right. I think I spent a bit of time talking to you about some of the details of that as well. With labels. So I think I just, go around the business, and then every now and then I'm like, oh, far out, I need to cover the standard. So I'll just go, weeks in depth trying to understand that point, and then passing it on to my installers so that we're making sure we're compliant. But it is a tricky one. It is a big thing to try to get your head around, especially for just a Sparky on the tools that doesn't really like sticking their heads in the books at night when they get home from work. So yeah.
Yeah. There's a saying that if you want to learn something, try teaching it, because you really have to understand it. I mean, people think I'm a bit of a standards nerd. Well, it's mainly because I've been asked the same question 100 times. And I keep having to kind of go and check and then be corrected. So in fact, I say my students are my best teachers, because they often point out the errors that I've made. So yeah, teaching or providing, something like a blog is a really great way of making it more enjoyable, you could say.
Yeah, and I think I've heard you say the same thing. The reason that you spend Sunday doing these Toolbox talks is it forces you into preparing and learning something, So, yeah. So.
Yep. Hey, we've been at it for nearly an hour now, so
right.
I might just get to the wind-up stage here. But just a last question for you, Mark. If you could change one thing about the solar industry, what would it be?
Okay. I think what the industry lacks is, maybe people like you and Finn, or people that are really just taking products seriously and testing them and understanding them, and not just getting on bandwagons and this is my favorite product. Like I kind of get frustrated sometimes when I put out a technical review and people come back and just clickbait or whatever. I'm like, that's not engaging in the argument. Come on. I'm probably wrong a lot of the time, but at least have that argument. So I think it would be good if there was more people, and I know there's plenty of well-educated people in the industry, but a lot more people to get online, like me and you and Finn and other guys in the industry do, and try to bring us to a higher level, not just accept marketing that manufacturers bring out, holding them to account. So,
Good point. Well, Mark, thanks for taking an hour out of your Sunday and, talking to my audience. So yeah. So it's been great having you on, and maybe when we've got something exciting, we might do another one of these.
Yeah, sounds good. That was fun. Thanks, Glenn.
Cool. All right, I'll send you backstage. And don't forget, keep that tab open.
Sure, will do. Yep.
Okay. See ya.
See you later.
Well, that was really fun, and hopefully that worked well, because I have had a few tech dramas with doing live interviews. So it's fingers crossed, no echoes, and everything streamed smoothly. For those who watched it live, you can actually watch it also as a recording later on if you might have sort of ducked out at some point, and it'll be on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn profile, my Facebook page, YouTube, and also even X. I don't know if X is a great place to watch this stuff, but there you go. So I'm going to be back next Sunday, 1:00, same happy place, same happy time, and I haven't actually got a topic yet. So If you want to send me in some suggestions for a topic for next week's Toolbox Tech Talk, please do. Otherwise, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. See ya.
Every word that comes out is a lie. Make you look like you're so ice. You won't make it to the finish line. Now if you gotta know the truth, was gonna let you